Good evening and welcome to our gallery and our online viewers this evening as well. My name is Lucy Rocky. I'm the CEO at Central Goldfields Shire Council and I'm opening the meeting this evening. Unfortunately, our new Mayor, Councillor Elizabeth Long, is unavailable for the meeting this evening. So I will undertake the commencement of the meeting and welcome and apologies, and then I'll be asking for councillors to nominate a chair for the evening. So could I ask councillors to rise for the acknowledgement of country and council prayer? I'd like to acknowledge and extend my appreciation for the Dja Dja Wurrung people, the traditional owners of the land that we are standing on today. Today, we pay our respects to leaders and elders past, present and emerging, for they hold the memories, the traditions, the culture and the hopes of all Dja Dja Wurrung people. And the prayer. Almighty God, we ask you to be present in this council, direct and guide our deliberations. We ask you to grant us wisdom and sensitivity as we deal with the business of Central Goldfields Shire. May each decision that we make advance the well-being of all residents. This we pray. Amen. So I'd also like to note this evening an apology from Councillor Wayne Sproul as well. So, councillors, do I have a motion to nominate a chair for this evening's meeting?
Yes, Madam Chair. In keeping with long-standing practice, I'd like to nominate the previous Mayor, former Mayor, Councillor Grace Lavella, be the chair for this evening's meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Minnesota. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Lovett. How do I vote on that, please? All those in favour? Carried, and I'll now hand over the chairing roles to Councillor Lavella. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lucy. Going for you, Madam CEO. I'll start with item number 4, which is conflict of interest. Are there any conflicts of interest around the table tonight? There are nil. We will go on to item number 5, confirmation of minutes from the previous council meetings. I suspect they've all been read. Do I have a move for the minutes, please? Councillor Gerard Murphy, as seconded to the minutes, please. Councillor Chris Meadows-Taylor, all in favour? That is carried. There's no minutes of delegated and advisory committees, no petitions. We are now at item number 8, which is officers' report. Officer report 8.1, Council Plan Action Plan Report first quarter. This report provides Council with an update on the status of the actions identified in the Council Plan Annual Action Plan 23-24 for the quarter ending 30th September. Do I have a mover for this motion? Councillor De Villiers. Do I have a seconder? Councillor De Villiers, would you like to read that out?
So fine. Sorry, I'm just been going through the list of things that's been listed in the report from officers. And Councillor Lovett is sitting next to me. Sorry, I'm
Councillor, can I just have the motion?
Yeah, I'm finding it. That's how I'm getting to it. In a minute. Where are we?
Page 21.
21. Sorry about that. Good. So the motion is that Council note the Council Plan Annual Action Plan 2023-24 progress report for quarter 1.
Thank you, Councillor De Villiers. Would you like to speak to this motion?
Thank you, Chair, Madam Chair. This is the bit that I really love with council meetings is with the presentation of this report. It's always interesting to read the activities that's happening and what the council officers are keeping themselves busy with, because we don't really have any contact with the council officers. Looking at this, you realise the ginormous effort that goes into actually bringing the strategic plans we have into effect and into action and just taking care of our community. So thank you to all the officers for that.
Thank you, councillor de Villiers. Councillor Murphy, would you like to speak?
If we all had a read through the actual annual action plan for the core areas, there's timelines for things to be done by the 23 and 24. There's funding which has been approved. So there's situations there which we're looking to. It looks like we're all around the 30th of 6, 24 that most things will be done by. And there's funding that has been approved for some things, and funding hasn't been approved yet. So when we really look at the annual action plan, it is basically everything is due date is the 30th of 6, 24 or before. So that's about 8 months away. So that's good to know and good to look at, and I'm pretty happy with that. That is happening now. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Murphy. Is there any other councillors wish to speak to this? Councillor Chris Meadows-Taylor.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I think when we look at these each quarter, it's easy to just say, look, isn't this good? I mean, the things that we always notice, the amount of work that's being undertaken, the progress in the work that's being undertaken, and recognise the hard contribution and hard work of the officers concerned. And we should never underestimate those things. But sometimes I think it's good to just reflect on perhaps a new angle or different angles. And one of the things when reading through this, which is not so much different to other reports, but it made me think the critical role of partnerships in our delivery. We partner with so many organisations, we partner with government and funding. We think about our youth services programs. Where would we be without government, the state government funding for those? So many different areas of funding, which we have to seek and we have to work for and have to apply for. But then in the delivery, we work in partnership with our community organisations, with other organisations, delivering services. So the issue of managing within partnerships, all of that takes added work too. Those partnerships don't necessarily just happen. They take work. But in the process of delivering in partnerships, we deliver better outcomes where that's appropriate. So I just want to pay recognition to our officers, not only for their contribution, but to all our partners and for our officers in actually generating those partnerships, securing them and maintaining them, because in that's a lot of work, but the benefit goes to the community because they're better projects, I think, when we get more input. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Thank you, councillor. Any other councillor wish to speak to this motion? I will now put the motion. All in favour? Anyone against this motion? No one against this motion. This is carried. We'll move on to item 8.2. The purpose of this report is for council to consider and adopt the updated priority projects plan to support councillors and council staff in their advocacy of the state and federal governments to fund projects of significance to the Shire. Do I have a mover?
Madam Chair, I'd be delighted to move that council adopt the updated priority projects plan. 2, provide copies to local MPs and relevant government ministers and government departments. And 3, continue to investigate funding opportunities to support the delivery of these projects.
Thank you, councillor Chris Meadows-Taylor. Do I have a second of this motion? Councillor Jeff Lovett. Councillor Chris Meadows-Taylor, would you like to speak to this motion?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is something that I find particularly exciting. We have been immensely successful in receiving grants. The reason that we have been so successful in a highly competitive environment is because of the amount of work that goes into the strategic advocacy of priority projects. By that I mean, this plan is an example, and has been the current plan and its predecessors. By putting in the work to strategically position and work through those projects that are of key importance to council and the community, and then document the business case for investment, we've provided the basis to secure that investment, and indeed that's been commented on by the state governments and others, that it's really an example model for other councils to follow. Before the present plan was developed before the election and focused on a wide range of projects that have been in a lot of cases delivered and achieved and been funded. This is a more focused document, recognising, I think, that as we know, both governments, state and federal governments, are in a more austere funding environment, but with key priorities that are available. And so we've targeted those opportunities. So some projects absolutely remain under other game-changing initiatives. We continue to see sporting investment for the Delidio Recreation Reserve. We continue with our focus on early years, under the importance of the early years, which Go Goldfields has well established. And we continue our commitment to developing industry engagements and further industry and manufacturing in a very challenging environment. So those things continue and are reflected here. But we particularly targeted those things that are the subject of major investment by both governments. Housing is one of them, and particularly in my own location of Talbot, so the Talbot Futures project offers us potential housing, as we do in other areas, but the potential to develop that. We know that's critical for housing workers and housing new residents that want to come here. It's particularly exciting to see the work in Maryborough now, targeting the committed investment in tourism and heritage investment associated with the World Heritage listing, and also the commitment coming out of the Labs Commonwealth Games. And so the proposal for Central Maryborough, the development of 3 cultural heritage precincts, which I think is exceptionally exciting, the station complex, the town hall complex, and a new heritage complex around Princess Park and the grandstand and all the other heritage attractions there. And also the opportunity to develop the interpretation placemaking between those points. So we create an incredibly important and exciting tourism experience. I think that's a very exciting angle. So I think this is a targeted strategic revision. I think it's very well focused, and I think we will achieve real success because of the work put into this. And I'm delighted to make that motion. Thanks.
Thank you, councillor. Councillor Lovett.
Nothing to add, Madam Chair.
Nothing to add. Any other councillors wish to add? Councillor Murphy.
In the recommendation, it's got number 3, continue to investigate funding opportunities to support and delivering of these projects. Perfect, that's good. Then we've got over the page, we've got 11 areas that we're doing at the moment. I don't need to read them all out, but they're either completed or they've been completed. Like the Maryborough Town Hall is going to be completed next year. Then we've got Princess Park Grandstand funding allocated in the Council 24 budget. The scoping and design for future renewal and conservation works, which is fairly important because we can't use part of it at the moment. It is important, not fairly. Use part of it at the moment. And then part of the Princess Park, I like this idea of the Princess Park Heritage. Princess Park Heritage Precinct. Councillor Meadows-Taylor, you know how I like the idea about this. Planning work included in the 23-24 budget to ensure the project is grant application ready. Now that's very good for us because grant application ready is we're ready to go when the grants are ready. So we're not floundering or trying to find things to do, or we're not ready on these important opportunities. And the Princess Park is the whole heritage of the area, the grandstand. It is an important situation. So I'm very, very happy with that. There's the activation of the Maryborough Railway Station, the Central Goldfields Art Gallery, the netball courts at Delidio Recreation. The 2 courts are going to be being built there now. The Delidio Recreation Reserve advocacy undertaken with the 2 members, state and federal. So it goes. That is good stuff. That's fantastic. But I like the idea. Continue to investigate funding opportunities, which is really important because if we're not scope ready and ready to go bang with these important situations or anything into the future, we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing for the community. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor. Any other? Councillors? No. I'll put this to a vote. All in favour of this motion? Anyone against this motion? No one against? This motion is carried. 8.3. Propose the community feedback update for proposal to name the open space at Wirrikee Rise as Cyril and Myra Martin Reserve. Do I have a mover for this motion? Councillor Lovett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll move that Council 1 ratifies the proposal to name the section of land in Wirrikee Rise described below as the Cyril and Myra Martin Reserve. 2, in accordance with section 10 of the Geographic Place Names Act 1998, applies to the Registrar of Geographic Names for the registration of the amendment at point 1 to be made. And 3, thanks the community for its feedback, noting it reflects widely held respect for Cyril and Myra Martin.
Thank you, councillor Lovett. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Murphy. Councillor Lovett, would you like to speak to this?
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's clearly obvious from the numerous replies from the public that were all positive that Myra and Cyril Martin are both held in the highest esteem and respected throughout the community for their lifetime commitment to Maryborough. I believe this is a fitting tribute to both of them. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, councillor Lovett. Councillor Murphy, would you like to speak?
Oh, I'd just like to concur with Councillor Lovett. If people read the information in the minutes in their agenda, which is also on the website, that you'll find a good history of Cyril and Myra Martin. And it's the things I find interesting. I grew up here and I was around it all. Jeff was here when he was around it all. We're around it. So as you, Madam Mayor, they built the first motel here in 1959. It was one of the first, one of 5 in the state. And really thinking of that, their foresight, their love for the community, and then a dance school forever. And you also have to remember Cyril went off the war, he came back, and all these things happened. And it's good to have this named after him. We tried to get the Martin Street named after him, but couldn't because of logistics. But I'm very happy to have this happen, and it'll be there for time and eternity. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor. Any other councillors wish to speak? I will put this motion. All in favour? Anyone against? No one against? That is carried. We are now up to item 8.4, planning application D0 or D044-23, 2 lot subdivision of land and subdivision of land adjacent to a road in a transport zone 2 at 42 Victoria Street, Carisbrook.
Madam Chair, before we continue,
Councillor de Villiers.
could I ask for seek a motion to defer this application?
Councillor de Villiers.
Madam Chair, I just wonder, before you accept the motion, I have a question. Would you prefer to take a question out? of the motion?
Yes, certainly. Is that okay, councillor? Before we go. Thank you, councillor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to
Councillor
ask a question to Mr. Irving, if that's possible.
President.
Thank you. So, Mr. Irving, I'm mindful as councillors are of work the council has commissioned on land use planning for part of Maryborough, Flagstaff and Carisbrook that's presently being undertaken. And I'm just wondering if you could just refresh me and refresh councillors on broadly on the scope of that work, particularly as we're dealing with an application now in Carisbrook.
Yeah, thank you for the question, councillor. The land use framework plan that you're referring to will aim to achieve the following objectives. Establish a medium to long-term direction for residential and industrial development in Maryborough North, Carisbrook, Flagstaff in accordance with the recent strategic work adopted by council and updated population growth and supply demand data, and prepare an integrated framework plan for the Maryborough North, Carisbrook and Flagstaff that identifies area for growth over time, supports the resolution of land use conflict and establishes a township urban growth boundary. The framework plan will need to address the following: assess issues in the study area that need to be considered in a framework plan, including cultural heritage, ecological values, environmental risk and infrastructure availability. Identify suitable land for residential growth in Carisbrook and Maryborough North to meet range of lot sizes and housing needs, including appropriate areas for rezoning, to maintain adequate supply over time and any associated controls that may be required that considers environmental risk, other planning constraints and infrastructure needs. Make recommendations to encourage the potential development of existing industrial zone land within the framework plan while minimising potential conflict with adjacent uses, and identify an urban growth boundary for the study area and provide the strategic justification for any planning scheme amendment measures required for implementing the framework plan.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Now, this is councillor, do you still wish procedural motion to?
Yeah, thank you. I would like to, so
Do we have a seconder? Yeah, you go ahead.
thank you. So I would like to move that we defer the case.
Turn your microphone.
Oh, sorry. You know. I would like to move that we defer the granting of these applications until or that it be postponed until council has had the benefit of the recommendations and outcomes of the report of Hanson Consultants, town planning experts commissioned by council to develop a framework for development in Carisbrook.
Thank you, councillor. Do I have a seconder for this? Councillor Murphy. No debate.
Full comment?
No debate.
No debate.
No procedural. Right, so I would like to put the vote to defer this motion. That's 5-4. Anyone against this motion? No one against this motion. This is moved to defer to the future.
Until we reset there.
And that is carried. A deferral is carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now to item 8.5, planning application D042-23, development 4 dwellings and a lot subdivision of land at 19 Smith Street, Carisbrook. Do I have a councillor?
Madam Chair, I'm sorry, since I'm the ward councillor for Carisbrook and this planning application is in Carisbrook as well, I would like to move a motion that this be deferred as well for until we've received the Hanson report.
For the same
Reason, yes.
Certainly,
that's
would
the
you like
motion.
to read that out again?
I can just bring up the words. I would like to move that we defer item 8.5, a planning application, until council has had the benefit of the recommendations and outcomes of the report of Hanson Consultants, the town planning experts commissioned by council to develop a framework for development in Carisbrook.
Thank you, councillor. Do we have a seconder for this deferral? There's no seconder for that motion. There is councillor Murphy. Seconder for this motion. I would like to now put this, that there is no debate. I'd like to put this motion.
Just need to ask a question. Why can't the seconder talk? Why can't the seconder talk on it?
Through the chair, would you like me to answer that question? So under the governance rules, 42 procedural motions. Procedural motions, unless otherwise prohibited, a procedural motion may be moved at any time and must be dealt immediately by the chair. Procedural motions require a seconder. A procedural motion cannot be debated or amended. Thank you, councillor.
I am not debating. I am talking. I'm not amending, I am talking.
Councillor.
Madam Chair, could I move that the motion be put, please?
I now move that this motion be put, 8.5 be put. Those in favour of this procedural motion for deferral, please show hands. That is the majority. Anyone against this procedural motion? There is no one against this procedural motion. Therefore, I put item 8.5 as procedural deferral to the future. That is carried. Thank you. We hope that we have altered the order, as in number 9, notice of motion, there's no notices of motion. Number 10, urgent business, there's no urgent business. 11, confidential business, no confidential business. However, number 12 is now general business. And number 13 will be meeting closed. So we go to item number 12, general business. Is there any general business, councillors?
Madam Mayor, I'm seeking approval of the council to make a personal statement.
Thank you, councillor Lovett. I will put that to the councillors. Would you like to, okay, for councillor Lovett, business? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'd like to thank my fellow councillors for the opportunity to speak. It's an issue that I feel quite strongly about. In my time on council, no single issue has had the community talking so much as a recent SBS documentary, Meet the Neighbours. Many people ask my view on the documentary, to which my response was, until I have seen all 3 episodes, I will not comment. I have now seen all 3 episodes. In episode 1, in the first minute, one of Maryboro's finest said, it's going down to Googler at a very fast rate. Biff Warhurst said today Maryborough is one of the whitest and most disadvantaged towns in Australia and is ageing fast. There was a scene of the rundown Maryborough Dairy. My father owned and operated the Maryborough Dairy for 50 years. He closed it in 1995. That's 30 years ago. A lady's voice said, it's homogenous and very, very white. The show's host arrived in Maryborough for the first time and drove up High Street. She commented on the beauty of the building, but also said, there's lots of older people out and about. Prior to the Singh family leaving Melbourne, a voiceover says, they're moving to one of the whitest towns in Australia. During the 3 episodes that I have watched multiple times, every street view shows people on gophers or walking sticks or elderly or run-down buildings. Is that what Maryborough is all about? In my opinion, these comments and optics set the narrative for the documentary. Biff Warhurst, at the conclusion of episode 1, I quote, coming up next time, participants are struggling to feel at home in one of the whitest towns in Australia. As episode 2 began, 1 month on, Miff interviews ACON, again saying, what is it like to live in one of the whitest towns in the country? The Singh family were racially abused. in one of the least culturally diverse towns in Australia. It was said the town may appear welcoming, but not all locals are. The narrative continues. In episode 1, Miff Warhurst interviewed George Megalogenis, a highly respected journalist from the Australian Financial Review, who said, Maryborough is a small town, twice as many people are 65 and older than aged under 15. This is a serious problem. He went on to say, Maryborough is the first town in Australia to cross the grey zone. When a town crosses a grey zone, it accelerates the departure of young people. So it actually gets older than the rest of the country. Miff then asks George, what about diversity? It's pretty white. Megalogenis replied, it is in fact one of the whitest towns in Australia. The repetitive mentions about Maryborough being whitest, ageing, and most disadvantaged town without any semblance of balance by now, to me, was becoming stale. My comment about the whitest town and the other accusations, so what? Are we supposed to be embarrassed, hang our heads in shame, or apologise? But apologise for what? For living in a town that has survived all the ups and downs for 169 years and has afforded generations an enviable lifestyle. One of the people interviewed in the documentary said he was born in Maryborough. Well, not only was I born in Maryborough, but I have lived here all my life. A conscious decision I made a long time ago, and a decision I have never regretted. I know many people who feel exactly the same as I do. Why should we be embarrassed? Why should we feel ashamed? What for? Episode 1 stated the documentary had council backing for a pilot project that could show the way for struggling towns right across Australia. That's why we entered into it. Why then was the mayor's interview not shown in the documentary? Where was the first-hand explanation why council got involved? This documentary was seen as the ideal vehicle to highlight that in Australia there is a two-tier structure, the haves and the have-nots. This was an opportunity to shine a spotlight on issues not only affecting Maryborough, but hundreds of small towns across Australia, and for state and federal governments to fund programs to begin the process of renewal. It was regrettable that these views by our mayor were not aired. Episode 3, I felt, was an absolute non-event. I got the feeling that the filmmakers had backed themselves into a corner and they didn't know where to go. All of those interviewed in the documentary, not the participants, told us what the problems were. We already know what the problems are. No one in the documentary came up with solutions. I was looking for solutions. To be honest, in episode 3, I expected politicians, both state and federal, and bureaucrats to be interviewed. Number 1, to acknowledge that they understood the issues, and number 2, to propose solutions. Why weren't they part of this documentary? Let me say that the drone visuals of Maryborough I found magnificent. The buildings, the parks, streetscapes depicted our Maryborough as we know it. I found the participants in the project to be genuine and impressive. Acon, I found a fine young man, despite the issues he'd been through, and he was welcomed by by Maryborough Cricket Club with open arms. Estella genuinely loved her work at Asteria, and Asteria's CEO did everything she could to retain Estella. The Singh family embraced their experiences and wished to pursue their dreams here in Maryborough. Hector tried his best. The reality is that family ties was too strong, nothing else. Unfortunately, I see this documentary as a missed opportunity to highlight the plight of many regional and outback towns. In my mind, instead of the filmmakers taking a neutral path to finding lasting solutions, they chose to go in another predetermined direction. In today's Maryborough Advertiser, there are two stories relating to this issue. I pose the question, I wonder if my comments are given equal space because I'm coming from a very different perspective. And I firmly believe I talk on behalf of the vast majority of the residents of this town who are upset at the manner in which our town has been portrayed. It was disgraceful. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I totally concur with that. Totally concur. Thank you, councillor. Anyone else like to make? No, that's it. It is item number 13, meeting closed. Thank you very much, one and all. No,